Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petry Podcast Season 4. Today's guest is proof that preparation plus vision creates generational wealth. From earning a full college football scholarship to buying his first property at just 17 years old, his journey has evolved into building 60 homes in Pittsburgh and developing a transformational sports complex along NFL superstar Aaron Donald. He's not just building real estate, he's building futures, teaching financial literacy, and redefining life after sports. Welcome to the podcast, James Abdulla. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I am good. That little brief intro, that 2 sentences, you have done a lot in your life, sir.
I try to stay busy, and it's an ongoing process. I don't think I'll ever retire officially, but they always say, there's no purpose, then you die quicker. So I guess I'm gonna live a long time.
You are definitely gonna live a long time. You keep all of this up. So, Mr. James Abdulla, where in the world are you?
Currently, I am in the northern part of California in the Bay Area. I was born in South America in Guyana, and then my family brought me here when I was just a newborn because of a civil war going on in the area. So lack of supplies and safety and nutrition. So I was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania until was about 18, 19, and then moved around a bit for sports and professional growth, but now I've kind of settled here in California.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let me just start off by saying thank you so much for being on the podcast and all the information, the stories that you are going to give me and my community. I'm so appreciative of that. So, James, tell me, when did you start playing football, and when did you know that football would be a way out, if I could use that terminology?
So it was funny. Typically, we see the fathers pushing sports on the kids, and the mothers being very hesitant to allow their kids to play. But it was completely opposite for me. My father never really wanted me to play sports. He came to this country at 16 years old with $3 and ended up getting his master's degree in engineering. So very book smart, very hard worker, built his company from the ground up. And he wanted me to do the same kind of pathway. But my mom was a feisty young woman from Bloomington, Indiana, and she grew up with football in her blood. And so my first gift as a 4-year-old for sports was one of those play school basketball hoops. And
Yes.
So I sat there and shot at that thing all day. So I had a great jumper as a child, and then she immersed me in the sports world. So my love for football came from just loving the strategy of the game and how it was played, and really almost like a chess match, not just the brute contact and what everybody sees is the physicality of it, but I really like the strategy of it. So that's where it all started, was really with my mom pushing me just to really play sports at a young age.
Now, you received a full ride football scholarship. What college did you go to? And at what age did you realize I could possibly go to college and play football?
I think I knew I was really good at most sports that I did. I mean, even down to without skates, floor hockey. So whether it was soccer, hockey, basketball, football, baseball. I mean, I excelled at every single sport that I did. So that really caught my mother's attention. I always played with the older kids. So I was the first grader playing with the fifth graders. I was the fifth grader playing with the high school kids. So I was and it was a trend with a buddy of mine who actually made it to the NFL. And so we just were always knew that sports was going to be some type of career path at some capacity, whether it be a player, whether it be a coach or a mentor, so be it. But I would say really about 10 years old is when I started really focusing in and knowing that, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the college I want to go to. This is the path I want to take. So about 10 years old is when that vision started to come to life.
Okay. And what lessons from football do you still use today as a businessman?
One big thing, and this, ironically enough, wasn't from a football coach. It was from a basketball coach at a camp called Born to Run in Pittsburgh. His name was Coach Hoy, and this always has stuck with me, and I use it every day for punctuality and for business. If you can't be on time, you're late, and if you're on time, you're early. And that's the motto I live by. Everybody that knows me knows if you tell me to be there at 11 o'clock, I'm typically there at 10:45. So, I remember growing up, one of my best friends and I, Anthony Morelli, and his father was the coach, and Anthony and I were the star players on the team. And for baseball, we'd be out 4 hours early, lining the diamond, putting the bases in, making sure the grass was good if we needed to cut it or do whatever. I mean, we did everything earlier than everywhere. We're the first ones there and the last ones to leave.
When did you start thinking about what your life would be after sports, after football?
I think, unfortunately enough for me, I didn't start thinking about those things until it was too late. After injury. For me as a young adolescent, you have these big dreams, you map out your life, and what do they say? If you want God to laugh, tell him what your plans are.
Yeah.
So I think I jumped ahead of myself in a lot of ways, but the ambition was great, but the preparation for life after wasn't there. And that's where my mission now is to prevent that in the youth with young men and women, that just because, your playing career or your sports atmosphere potentially could be over, that doesn't mean that life stops. And I think that's where we see a lot of disparity with not just athletes, but athletes of color, where when they stop playing or they don't get their opportunity, they struggle professionally. And that's what's been my mission, my calling, is to help with financial literacy, emotional intelligence, and life after sports. So that's kind of my main goal now moving forward, is to prepare these young individuals and even individuals that are now transitioning even professional ranks into retirement, what they can do after their playing careers are over.
You purchased your first home, not your personal home, but sort of like maybe a flip or something like that, at the age of 17. Now, I don't know about my community, but I was not thinking about buying a home or a flip home at the age of 17. How were you able to accomplish such a feat at such a young age?
So I'd say around 13 or 14, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I told my dad, I said, I read this book. I was at a book fair at my school, and it was this book about entrepreneurship, and it read about this story, and this has to be back in about 1998, 1999, not to show my age here, but there was a book, and it was about entrepreneurship. And in 1996, I read about this story about Subway, the founder of Subway. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I could make a sandwich shop. And I told my dad, I said, I want to make my own sandwich shop. And he walked me through. I had to make my own business plan. I had to make my own prospectus and all this stuff at 14 years old, and I'm going through these motions of creating a prospectus, putting together a pro forma, doing this business plan so that I could eventually open this sandwich shop when I graduate. That ended up turning into a real estate model, just because, when you come back to the drawing board, there's one thing that's constant in this world, and especially in this country, is that there's always a need for real estate, whether it's new construction or whether it's turnover rentals or commercial property, whatever it is, there's always the need for real estate. So I pivoted my thinking to, a small sandwich shop, to hey, let's eventually do a fix and flip. Let's get into multifamily, and then let's start building the structures.
How did purchasing your first flip home at age 17, what did that opportunity mean for you?
It meant the beginning of a learning journey for one, but then just for me in my mind at that time, as a 17-year-old who has aspirations for the NFL, to me it just meant a fallback plan. Um, if I blew out a knee, if I didn't make it, if I, for whatever reason, that was going to be my fallback plan. Uh, and it didn't tie me up enough to where I couldn't do anything else either. I could do other things and manage a real estate portfolio or whatever, wherever it was going to lead me. And I think that's proof into now with so many things that I'm involved with and the consistent source of income that I'm able to generate from real estate transactions.
So you buy your first flip home at 17. What mistakes, and this is me assuming that you made mistakes, what mistakes did you make early on that helped you get to the point to where you are now, where you're building communities?
Yeah, and I want everybody to understand it's not, it's just like in sports. It's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when. It's not if you're going to make a mistake, it's just when and how you respond to it. Because even to this day, it's always a learning lesson. There's mistakes that are always dealt with timelines, with budgets, with contractors. I mean, it's always an adventure. So it's not for the faint of heart to get into real estate development. But when I first started out, I'd say some of the biggest mistakes I made were trying to rehab properties into my own liking instead of just giving it a vanilla shell and letting people kind of put their own, artistic flair if they want, certain types of cabinets, certain types of countertop. I'm trying to put my own flair into it, my own vision, and that's not what, the next person might like. So, you make mistakes with that. You make mistakes with not vetting properly the subcontractors that you're using, whether it be roofers, whether it be cement people, whether it be general contractors, whatever it is, So those are some of the growing pains early on that I had to suffer through. And even to this day, some of those same challenges, because, you can't always trust everybody. And it's a very tolerant business, if I can use the word correctly. It's just, you have to have very thick skin and you have to have a lot of patience, but you have to also be very strict and disciplined with your schedules.
When did you go from thinking and doing the individual flip homes to, I think I'm going to do multifamily living? When did that switch flip?
So I actually purchased I was about 4 projects in at this point. I did my first fix and flip, like you mentioned, at 17. That project closed when I was 19. We did a few others, fix and flips and rentals. I kind of got tired of dealing with tenants on the single family side because the homes were so large. In my mind, the rationale behind it was, if I can get apartments, it's way easier to renovate, 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet compared to a 3,000 square foot home if somebody doesn't take care of your property. So the big thing too was the loss that I took on the last single family home that I flipped in Melbourne, Florida. It's right along the coast down by Orlando. And I remember losing about $21,000 on that fix and flip because of the general contractor wasn't the best. We spent too much on the roof. We spent too much on the foundation. And I said, you know what? I don't think I have the patience or the tolerance for this type of, up and down and taking the loss. So I said, let me look into commercial real estate and multifamily and just get to my idea of it's easier to renovate a smaller unit at a higher number, like let's say it's 10 or 15 units. I'd rather do that than do one 3,000 square foot home and that's costing me $75,000 to renovate if somebody damages it. So that's where that logic came from. And that's when I made that transition.
And how did you fund these projects early on, the single family home and even the apartment complexes?
Oddly enough, the single family homes, I would look at We Buy Ugly Houses and I would see what inventory they had. I would try and buy it from them, either at cost or just barely, for them to make a margin on the profit, just, trying to get the best deal. But that doesn't always work the best either. But again, that's the learning portion of it, the mistakes that you make, and not doing enough research to find where the best properties are going to be. Not thinking about school districts, not thinking about demographic, not thinking about median income, all those things that now, those are the first things that I look for. But going through those pains, and then it eventually turned into commercial property where, okay, I can own the building. I can, also manage, to a point, the leases, the background checks. Tenants seem to be easier to deal with, so to speak, because at that time, you don't know anything. So you're learning on the fly. And I didn't realize all the challenges that came with that until I jumped head first, which hindsight is why I'm probably building now instead of still being a landlord, just because of the challenges of being in court every week and evictions and tenants and people with squatters' rights, people that know the system and how to abuse it. So that's where that kind of transition came in, and the thought process behind that. So I'd say it was that Melbourne property, fix and flip, got me out and interested in the commercial just because of the size alone, but also the cost involved in renovations.
Okay. And how did you go about building a team around you that you could trust?
I didn't. I did it all on my own with my dad. My dad and I, we did everything. If we needed somebody to do work at our place, we had his engineering firm, so we'd take one of the handymen from the firm, pay them on the clock so that we didn't have to necessarily give them an extra salary. So they were okay getting overtime or getting a bonus from our mother company, which is our engineering firm, AWK Consulting Engineers. So it was kind of like an in-house, type of workshop. We kind of send it off to one of our guys, say, hey, can you do this? What can you do? And they'd come in, fix the stuff, and we just keep it rolling. But we never hired anybody. We did it all, just me and him.
Wow, that worked out well.
Yes.
How is it working with your dad?
It's very interesting, especially, because I'm just a kid, right? So I don't know anything. And, my ideas always get second guessed or shot down, or until now in my older age, now he's starting to listen. And he's like, okay, maybe this kid knows what he's talking about. He's not as dumb as he looks. So, so now it's fun. It's fun now. It was challenging early on, especially when, I'm a young, hungry adolescent, young adult, and I have all these dreams and ambitions, and I want to be aggressive. And sometimes, looking back at it, he's saved me from a lot of poor decisions because, I let my ambition get ahead of my logical thinking. So it's a good balance now. And now that I'm older, now I'm able to kind of flip the script a little bit, reel him in, get him calmed down, because he's working against his internal clock. Like, I can only get so much done. I got so much work to do, and I got to get it done in this little bit of time before it's my time to go. And so now it's funny that the roles are reversed. So, but it's fun. It has its challenges in the past, but now it's awesome, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
You are currently, and I'm assuming you're also doing this with your dad as well, building 60 homes in Pittsburgh. What inspired you to start doing that?
A big thing, a good friend of mine, Dr. Joseph Cannon, he does financial literacy training for individuals. And what we've always discussed, Joe and I, is the disparity of wealth within this country. And it's not even just with Joe. My whole life, we've, as a person of color, we've always had to work 10 times as hard than our counterpart. And the problem being that we have to be extraordinary just to be their average. Mm-hmm. And that's where it really motivated me as an adult, to where I want to have people be able to realize home ownership, to be able to build assets, to have a smart retirement plan, and all the things that we're not privy to as far as knowledge or education by design, in my opinion, sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's my duty to at least assist or try and get people the joy of and freedom of home ownership. And also, as I said, in sports, just the education tools for life after sports and financial literacy and emotional intelligence. So I just feel like that's been my purpose, is to be a servant leader. And that's how I've been trying to serve my community, is through home ownership and education.
How do you balance, James, your purpose with profit?
I never look at anything. Of course, we need money to survive. And, I've fallen on hard times. I've had great times. I've probably lived a life that most people dream of, but at the same time, it's very humbling, because I came from nothing. So I appreciate it on both ends. I appreciate not having things. I appreciate having things, but that doesn't drive me. I don't do things for the intention of money. I do things for the intention of betterment of my community. And I think that's where, when you lead first, everything else falls into line, whether that's profit, whether that's success, whether that's recognition, whatever, all this stuff that doesn't matter, that all falls in line. But what matters is how you serve your community and how you present yourself in public and to your surrounding community and peers.
What challenges have you faced, James, in building such a large scale investment with 60 homes that you're building in Pittsburgh? What challenges have you faced doing that?
Even just recently, we had a lawsuit with a firm that was a general contractor who, it's a $80,000 to $100,000 loss that we had to take because they were stealing supplies, essentially. And now they're out of business. And you have to be able to recover those funds, but unfortunately, we most likely won't. But it's a loss that you take, and some things that you have to buffer into your budget. But it's tough to kind of be on your own, and as you scale, as you grow larger, the sharks get bigger and bigger and bigger, and people are always out to try and take advantage of you, especially when they see you starting to come up. They want to squash you, or they want to take advantage of you and try and rob you. And that's some of the challenges that I've been facing recently, is that as I'm continuing to grow, now my eyes are more open to some of the negatives that come from people trying to take advantage.
Now, I have James Abdulla on the podcast today. So, James, not only are you building 60 homes in Pittsburgh, you're also building a sports complex in Pittsburgh, as if you didn't have enough to do already. So what sparked the idea for the sports complex in Pittsburgh?
So unfortunately, after I received my scholarship to school, I ended up taking a scholarship to Gannon University in Erie. I had multiple offers that I could have went through. I actually got invited to walk on at Indiana University, who just won the national championship this year, who was my
Absolutely.
mom's favorite team because she's from Bloomington. But I passed on that to take a full scholarship at Gannon. Didn't like the environment that I was in, so I transferred out into Robert Morris. They honored my scholarship, and unfortunately, my first semester I got shot when I came back home to visit family, and it shattered my femur. So couldn't walk. Football was pretty much over at that point for me. So I thought, but I willed my way back to work to play again. But that's kind of what shaped that whole experience, as far as getting the scholarship and really trying to pursue my dream and then having it stripped away at such a young age. And that was probably one of the that was the turning point in my life where everything just started to click, like, okay, we have to turn this around. Not to say that there weren't challenging times mentally, when it's very important. And I can't reiterate enough. I'm so happy that now we live in a time where mental health is very highlighted and heightened, because when I was growing up, it wasn't.
Right.
You can't talk to a therapist. If you talk to a therapist, you're broken, you're weak, you're whatever. So now that we have that out of the way, it's, some of those dark struggles that you deal with when something that you've worked your whole life for gets stripped away, you don't realize how much character or internal fortitude and intangibles that you were given by God, and how strong that we can be as individuals. So that's where it kind of shaped this mission with the sports complex. And that's kind of the purpose behind it, is because of what happened in that moment. And I don't want anyone to ever feel that just because sports was taken away doesn't mean you still can't have a career in sports, or you just can't be, purposeful, outside of sports either. So that's where the life after sports and the emotional intelligence come in, because we have to be strong enough emotionally and mentally to build ourselves up, keep ourselves up, because we can't rely on anybody else for our strength and our happiness. We have to do that internally. And for the opportunities outside of it, it's just education, just knowing what resources are out there for us and what we can do next. And that's where I want to build this platform to help foster that lack of need in certain communities throughout the country, but starting first in Pittsburgh.
Tell me about this sports complex, James. What will be offered within the walls of this sports complex?
So obviously training, that's the very basic part of it. Dwayne Brown with 2/10 Fitness is going to be our one of our equity partners, a very dear friend of mine, who's been with me on this concept since 2007. I mean, he was there since day one. We hit a roadblock in 2008 with the economic collapse, but now we're ready to go. I think we're 6 to 8 weeks away from trying to break ground. So this has been a long time coming. Dwayne has been pivotal in introducing us to not only Aaron Donald, but a plethora of other professional athletes and big sponsors. So we're so grateful for Dwayne, and without Dwayne, this wouldn't happen. And, I'm so excited to have potentially, as I mentioned, Aaron Donald be a part of this. I was blessed enough to be on the coaching staff at my high school, Penn Hill Senior High School in Pittsburgh, where Aaron attended his sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I was on the coaching staff to watch him grow into the man and incredible human being that he is today. And, with talks with him, I think this aligns exactly with what both of our mission, him and I and Dwayne, and everybody that's going to be involved. It's their mission to help these youth out of the circumstances that, I've had to endure, that some of my counterparts have had to endure, some of the, their friends, their children, their aunts and uncles, and the like. It's just the areas, and Pittsburgh is just one inner city. There's so many other inner cities throughout the country, and we want to start with one and prove the concept so that we can build satellite campuses across the the country and kind of put our mission into action.
What will this sports complex mean for the community of Pittsburgh?
It means education. And again, I want people to understand that, yes, you're going to train your body, but the biggest thing is we're going to have 3 classrooms where we're going to do emotional intelligence, financial literacy, and life after sports. And that's not just for the student athlete. That's also for the parents understanding the pressures of recruiting, the parents to understand the wild west of what is NIL right now. We have communication barriers between players, parents, coaches, and referees. So we want to bridge that gap of communication to have people be able to communicate better, so we don't see fights at Pee Wee games. We don't see people cursing out referees in the middle of the game, and players and coaches getting into it on the sideline, coaches and referees getting. We want everybody to foster an environment where communication is open, people are respected and heard, but it's also a very respectful environment that everybody has a job to do and everybody has to respect everybody's role, and that we support everyone in every way that we can. So it's very much more than just training your body, but it's also training your spirit and training your mind.
Why is financial intelligence, emotional intelligence so important for people that play sports? I mean, clearly, it's important to know financial intelligence. It's important to have an understanding of emotional intelligence. But why is that heightened with people that participate in sports, male and female?
Unfortunately, we see issues like, and I hate that they've had stuff so publicly in the viewership, but Sha'Carri Richardson, for example, losing her mind in the airport and not remembering that, hey, I'm Sha'Carri Richardson. I'm also, you have to take your humanity out of it for a minute and also realize you're under a microscope and that you are a public figure. So having that emotional intelligence not to react in those moments, even though you're angry. Ja Morant, with his personal struggles and his journey back to mental awareness. We see case after case of domestic violence or theft or violent crimes within the athletic community, and it saddens me. And then also on the financial realm of it, ESPN did a 30 for 30 called Broke, and at the time it stated the statistic was 78% of African American athletes are broke by the time they retire or before.
That is horrible.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand, where guys, you don't make your money on your first contract. You don't make your money on your rookie deal. You make your money on your second and your third contracts in the NFL. And the NBA is set up different, where it's guaranteed money. Major League Baseball, same thing. But you have to have financial literacy, because who's managing your money? Who's paying your taxes? Who's setting up your IRA or your growing your wealth growing accounts? Who's doing all this, and what are they taking? What leverage do they have over you? What are you paying them? We need people to understand, young men and women, that if you play in the state of Texas, that, you can, you don't pay income tax. But if somebody tells you, a tax professional tells you, oh yeah, you got to pay this tax, but you don't know any better, they're taking that money and taking it off the top and putting it in their pocket. So it's just little nuances like that where I feel like it's unfortunate that they have the resources. It might be a day, like a rookie day in the NFL, where they teach you, or they sit you in a seminar and they say, oh, here's, we're here for your resources. And those guys don't want to hear that. They're ready to play. They're 20 years old, 19 years old, instant millionaires.
Yes.
They don't have the emotional intelligence at that point to understand the amount of fiscal responsibility that comes with that amount of money. And so now it's our job as, people that have seen it, been through it, to mentor them, to guide them, and do it for nothing more than helping that individual. If it pays itself forward, it does. We're going to be fine regardless. And that's my mindset going into it. I don't need anything to kind of incentivized me to help these young men and women. I just want to see them succeed. And for me, that's the greatest success, is seeing somebody that you've poured into succeed. And that's the win for me.
You've spoken about it a little bit already, James, but what is your intention in this space as an entrepreneur, as a developer, as someone I would consider perhaps a mentor or a coach, teaching about financial literacy, teaching about emotional intelligence? What is your intention? What is your goal?
My goal again is it's to build community leaders. So I want to live in a community where I feel safe going to a restaurant, where I feel safe going to the movies, I feel safe walking down the street. And I think we get more into now where we value so much entertainment, we value so much dollar amounts, where, oh, this guy made $10 million over 2 years, or $50 million over 1 year, whatever it is. We get so hyped up on money and the wrong things that, they don't understand that they have a responsibility that comes with that superstardom, that comes with that financial weight, that they still have to carry themselves as respectable human beings off the court or off the field or wherever their respective athletics are. They have to carry themselves as leaders in the community, and good human beings. And that's where I feel it's my mission to help them foster that growth and become community leaders so that they can raise up the next generation even well after I'm gone.
My final question for you, James, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
So a good childhood friend of mine, his name is Blake Covington. Blake and I have known each other since, goodness, we were third grade. So very long time. And, Blake has been one of the people that the few people that have actually stuck by my side through the ups and downs, always checked on me, always made sure. And he's very prominent in his career with what he's doing with Deloitte, and business coaching and business management. He is climbing the corporate ladder. I believe he just got promoted to a partnership position. So he's somebody that I admire very much, somebody I respect very much, and somebody I think has a lot of great knowledge and information to share. We come from the same area. We've had some similar struggles within our families, within our community. We've survived the community of Pittsburgh, which unfortunately for both of us, we've lost so many friends in the process, to either death or drugs or, some type of violence. And it's just a testament to his character that he's in the position he is now. And I think he would be somebody that has insurmountable amount of information and value that he could add to your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, James, for being on the podcast and sharing your story with me and my community. I really appreciate you. And to my community, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get James's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.